His whole life is a fabrication of falseness, of ego. At 59 years old, he's going to be fatigued after the ring walk. I mean, I would expect so. I can get fatigued at 41 walking up some stairs on occasions.
Charlotte Daly with MailSport Boxing, joined by Tony Bellew. How are you?
Hey Charlotte, I'm okay. Thanks, love. Thanks for having me.
That's all right. I want to start by talking about Mike Tyson first before we move on to Jake Paul.
Okay.
What do you make of the fact that he is returning to the ring at 58 years old?
It's a little bit concerning, but Mike Tyson's been one of my idols since I was a kid. Mike Tyson's probably one of the biggest factors and reasons I'm actually in boxing today, and one of the reasons why I became a world champion. He inspired a nation, and he inspired an era and a generation, and I'm not part of that generation and that era that he inspired. I was born in '82. I was staying up till 3-4 o'clock in the morning to watch his great fights back in the early '90s, and yeah, he was just a hero and an icon of mine. So Mike Tyson is literally one of the kings of the sport.
I think it's almost twofold, because watching him in the ring the other night for the open workout, it got that nostalgic feeling of watching Mike again fighting, but then also it brings up those feelings of concern for him, the fact that he is a 58-year-old man going into the ring against a young buck.
Yes.
Do you think there is genuine fear for his health?
Of course, when you're fighting a man half your age, you've got to be concerned. At the same time, thankfully, he's not fighting an established fighter or a world champion. He's facing a guy who's used to be on the Disney Channel. So thankfully, it's not someone who is genuinely really dangerous. I think Mike touched upon himself. Mike Tyson is a real natural-born killer. Mike Tyson is a fighting and killing machine in his prime. You couldn't word it any better with saying he's a fabricated natural-born killer in Jake Paul. Everything about him is fabricated. It's just his whole life is a fabrication of falseness, of ego. There's just, listen, I can't knock him as in terms of a businessman. The kid's a fantastic businessman. You know, he's generating huge numbers. He stuck this on Netflix. I would say, as far as Netflix is probably one of the biggest platforms in the whole entire world. And he's secured a deal to fight on that channel for the first time ever, which is insane in itself. But make no mistake, he's done that because probably the most well-known face in the world in Mike Tyson is part of it. He couldn't have done this on his own. Yeah. He needed Mike Tyson. And this is the kind of thing that he's drawing upon. It's sad, but I'm not going to lie, I understand why it's happening.
You said about the fact that Mike is a natural-born killer, and he's always been like that, and it's almost like everyone's anticipating once he gets in the ring, the switch will flip again. At the end of his career, he lost that hunger for fighting, and he even said that himself. Yeah. He's been pretty docile in a lot of the build-up to this. Do you think we will see that killer on fight night?
There is no threat to Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, and that's what he genuinely believes. This is why he's not angry. This is why he's not showing any signs of intimidation or force. Mike's just like, he's letting it happen, and it's not really affecting or bothering him. I've grown up studying and watching Mike Tyson my whole life, and believe you me, you know when Mike wants to intimidate someone, and you know when Mike wants to get to someone mentally, physically, emotionally. You understand and know what he's doing. He hasn't even done that once with Jake Paul. And is that worrying? No, I just think, listen, Mike's 58 years old, he's a grandfather. And it's just, he's turning up, and I understand why he's turning up. Mike Tyson's being paid an extraordinary amount of money to have a mess around with a boy. A boy who used to be on Disney.
Yeah. You say about the money, of course, is the motivating factor to do it. But the bit that almost concerns me is I envision us seeing vintage Mike Tyson for a round. But then after that, fatigue is going to set in. And I know you spoke about actually before what it is like fighting under fatigue when you fought against Alexander Usyk.
Yes.
And you credited the referee with saving your life because you would have continued fighting.
Without a doubt.
Fighters are like that, and I worry that Mike Tyson is going to try and fight through even when he's at a point of serious fatigue. From your own experience, how dangerous can that be, and how important is the ref on Friday for stepping in if something like that happens?
At 59 years old, he's going to be fatigued after the ring walk. I mean, I would expect so. I can get fatigued at 41 walking up some stairs on occasions. No, with all due respect, Mike knows the rules in the ring. Mike understands it. And I'm not going to knock Mike in any way, shape or form, because Mike is human, and like every other human on the planet, he has a price. His price is being matched. So no one can, if Mike gets hurt, that's on Mike. Unfortunately, I don't want to see it, and if Mike was to get hurt, I would be enraged, I would be furious with Jake Paul. But in saying that, everyone in the world has a price.
Yeah.
There isn't a person in this world who doesn't have a price. Even the richest man in the world has a price. I'm sure Elon Musk will climb in the ring for a price. So we all have it. Mike's price is being met. So whatever goes down, it's on Mike. It's 2-minute rounds. It's 14-ounce gloves. It's a lot safer than it would be with 10-ounce gloves and 3-minute rounds. But still, you're absolutely spot on. There is that chance for fatigue. And Father Time waits for no one. So you'd worry about if Mike does get to that stage of fatigue, which I'm not sure he will. Mike understands the rules of engagement and combat. He understands what happens when you start feeling any signs of tiredness. He understands in combat how to lock people up, how to tie people up, how to run the clock down. All these tricks of the trade Mike's known. Mike probably gives out lessons on this, as I could. But Jake Paul doesn't know these rules of engagement. Jake Paul doesn't know how to run a clock down. Jake Paul doesn't know how to see out championship rounds, because he's never and will never be a championship fighter like Mike Tyson has. So although he's still 59, I'm just hoping he can draw that magic for one last time and land that amazing right hand that I've seen so many times. I mean, the uppercut would be better, because it would probably stop Jake Paul talking or eating for a week. But I'll take the right hand over the top instead of the right uppercut.
You said there about Jake Paul that he'll never be a champion. He keeps talking about the fact that he's on the road to world champion, and he's obviously saying after he beats Mike Tyson, he then wants to fight Canelo.
Yeah.
What do you make of how he sees himself and where he puts himself in the world of boxing?
Yeah, he genuinely doesn't believe he can beat Canelo. Listen, I'm 41 and past it, he couldn't lace my gloves. He's not fit enough to carry my jockstrap, and I'm 41 and a past it retired boxer who plays golf a few times a week, and he still doesn't have a cat selling chance with me. So never mind Canelo. Saul Canelo Alvarez is probably one of the best fighters I've ever seen. He's that good. On a counter-punching level, he's probably in the top 5 counter-punches of boxing in the history of boxing. He's that good. I would only put the likes of your Floyd Mayweathers, your Pernell Whitakers, your Juan Manuel Marquez's ahead of him when it comes to his ability with counter-punching. The guy's a freak. He's unbelievable. He's a modern-day Thanos. He takes your skills, he takes them away from you and uses them against you. He's that good, Canelo Alvarez. Jake Paul says things for effect. Jake Paul says things for a response and a reaction. If Jake Paul was serious about boxing, he'd face real active boxers, or he'd face former world champions who aren't grandfathers. That's what he would do if he was genuinely serious about boxing. If I'm right in thinking, he's fought one active boxer, and that's stretching it a bit, in Tommy Fury, and he lost, which is absolutely insane. Okay, he fought Anderson Silva. I think he did fight Anderson Silva and beat Anderson Silva, and everyone wants to harp on about Anderson Silva beating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Please just stop. just stop. Just fight real fighters. I would show my ass to the Vatican if Jake Paul was to ever go into an ABA championships and win them. And that's the Amateur Boxing Association championships, and would try and win a national title as an amateur boxer. I don't think he would beat any decent amateur boxer out there. I'm not lying.
What is your prediction then for fight night on Friday night? How do you see the fight unfolding between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul?
I'm not going to lie, I have no idea what's going to happen on Friday night. I wish I did know. Mike might get in there, lose his rag, and go for the swing for the lights. Mike might get in there and literally be an emotional wreck. I just don't know where Mike's at. He's 59 years old. He's a grandfather. So I have no idea what's going to happen. I suppose that leads to the intrigue. I don't want to watch it, but I do. If that makes sense. I know I'm contradicting myself, but that's exactly how I feel. I don't want to watch it, but I will.
I think that's what a lot of people feel.
Yeah.
But one of the fights that I actually think should be the main event is the Katy Taylor-Amanda Serrano fight. It is the main event. That is huge, yeah. It is the main event, really. For boxing fans who are tuning in to Netflix on Friday night,
I was at that first fight in Madison Square Garden.
Absolute war.
It's one of the best fights. Take away its women, take away where it's one of the best fights I've ever seen in my life, and I've seen some great fights. What Katy Taylor and Amanda Serrano achieved that night was one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. What they done, what they went through together, it was unbelievable. I mean, I tip my hat to both of the girls. They were exceptional. I've never seen a fight at such a pace from start to finish. Yeah. I mean, listen, I was, thankfully enough, I was able to watch things like Gatti and Ward and watch Pereira and Morales live on the TV. And I've witnessed other great fights like Foreman and Lyle over the years. You know, there's so many fights I've witnessed, and there's so many fights I've studied over the years. I've watched masterclasses, but to watch two elite fighters in their prime go at it the way Katy Taylor and Amanda Serrano did was just unbelievable.
You're expecting the same sort of performance and the same sort of fight on Friday? Do
you know the hardest part to predict is when two fighters have been through such an ordeal in the first fight like Katy and Amanda did, they usually 99% don't want to go back there. They don't want to feel the pain that they felt that night, so they might be a little bit apprehensive how they start, whereas in the first fight they started so quick and were at each other immediately. I think they both know now we can hurt each other, but we're both around for the long haul. And that may lead me to say it might start a bit slower, but it'll catch fire in the mid-rounds. So I don't think it'll start as fast, but I think it'll end in the same way. A really close, hard fight that could go either way. The first one could have went either way, in my opinion. Katy nicked it, but I just give them so much credit. Both icons of the sport. Both have got, without a doubt, the chance to say I'm the greatest female boxer of all time. I personally think it's Clarissa Shields, but ultimately these girls have got every right to say, with the amount of titles they've won and the amount of divisions they've won it in, being undisputed unified champions, I just think they're amazing, the both of them. So I tip my hat to both of them. The girls are amazing.